Hello friends, in today's video I will explain the fight between Muzan and Yoriichi. This video is going to be very interesting, so don't skip even a single second and watch it till the end, because in this video, along with the explanation of the Muzan versus Yoriichi fight, you will also see the origins of Yoriichi and Obanai. So without wasting any more time, let's start today's video. In our previous video, we saw Tanjiro is badly and violently injured by Muzan and loses consciousness, so Murata takes him to a safe place and does everything he can to treat him. Meanwhile, Tanjiro starts seeing a dream. We see Tanjiro standing while holding an axe. At that moment, he sees his house in front of him. Seeing the house, he thinks in shock, Is this my house? It looks like it, but something is different. This isn't my home. Tanjiro then looks at the axe in his hand and becomes shocked, thinking, am I seeing some kind of flashback? Just then, a child grabs his clothes and says, Dad! Hearing the word Dad, Tanjiro thinks, is he calling me that? And who is this child? Then the child points his finger toward the garden. As soon as Tanjiro looks toward the garden, he sees a man. Seeing that man, he understands that this is Yoriichi Tsugikuni, the creator of sun breathing. After that, Tanjiro, Yoriichi, and the child sit together on the veranda of their house and start talking. Yoriichi tells Tanjiro that he wants someone to listen to his story, so he comes to Tanjiro. Tanjiro thinks that by talking to Yoriichi, maybe he will be able to learn something about the 13 forms of sun breathing. Then Tanjiro says, It has been 2 years since we last met. I'm happy that you are well. Hearing this, Tanjiro becomes shocked because he cannot say what he is thinking, and his body is moving automatically. At that moment, Tanjiro understands that these are his ancestors' memories, and that is why he cannot interact with them. Then Yoriichi says to Tanjiro's ancestor, Seeing you happy makes me happy. Whenever a human is happy, Yoriichi feels great joy. Yoriichi then looks up at the sky and says that this world is beautiful in every way, and being born into this world itself is a blessing. After that, Yoriichi starts talking about his past. He says that his mother was a very religious woman. She always prayed so that sorrow and suffering would disappear from this world. She also prayed to the sun god for Yoriichi. She made a pair of earrings for Yoriichi as charms. At that time, Yoriichi could not speak, so his mother used to worry a lot about him. Knowing how much she worried about him made Yoriichi feel bad. Yoriichi's brother Kokushibo, whose name in his human days was Michikatsu, also loved Yoriichi very much. Michikatsu also worried deeply about Yoriichi. Even though their father beat him and told him to forget about Yoriichi, Michikatsu made a flute for Yoriichi and told him that whenever you need help, play this and I will come to help you. Although Yoriichi was loved by his mother and brother, to his father he was an unwanted child. So when his mother died, he left home. After running away from home, Yoriichi kept running as far as he could. He wanted to see how vast this beautiful sky was. Running like this, he ran for an entire day and night. Because of running so much, his legs became tired, and he stopped beside some paddies in the middle of the mountains. There, in one of the paddies, there was a girl about his age standing. The girl was holding a bucket and had been standing there for a long time, so Yoriichi asked her what she was doing there. Without looking at Yoriichi, the girl said that her entire family had died after being infected by a disease, because of which she is completely alone. That's why she had come to the paddy to take some tadpoles home. After saying this, the girl did not move from that place and stood there until the moment the sun set. Yoriichi also stayed there with her. Then she released all the tadpoles from her bucket back into the paddy. Seeing this, Yoriichi asked, Aren't you going to take these home? The girl replied, No, because separating the tadpoles from their family makes her feel very bad. Hearing this, Yoriichi said, How about I go to your house with you? Hearing this, the girl looked at Yoriichi and started crying with happiness. The girl's name was Uta, and from that day on, Yoriichi and Uta started living together. Uta loved to talk a lot. Yoriichi learns many things from Uta, and he also understands that he is different from other people. But Uta never saw Yoriichi as different. She would hold Yoriichi's hand so that he would not feel pain thinking of himself as separate from others. In this way, 10 years pass, Uta and Yoriichi get married, and Uta becomes pregnant. When the time comes for Uta to give birth, Yoriichi goes toward the city to bring a midwife, planning to return home before sunset. But while passing through the mountains, Yoriichi sees an old man. The old man's son has been very seriously injured in a battle and is fighting for his life, so the old man is going to see his son one last time. But because of his old age, his own body is very weak and he cannot cross the mountains, so Yoriichi takes the old man to his son. But it takes a long time. By then, the sun is almost setting. Because of this, Yoriichi decides to bring the midwife the next day and starts running back home at full speed. However, he arrives too late. By the time he reaches home, the sun has already set, and a demon has killed Uta and fled. Devastated by Uta's death, Yoriichi becomes overwhelmed with grief. He sits there for 10 days, holding Uta's lifeless body in his arms. At that moment, a demon slayer arrives who had been searching for the demon that killed Uta. The slayer tells Yoriichi that Uta should be buried for the honor of her soul. After that, the slayer and Yoriichi together bury Uta. Sitting beside the grave, Yoriichi thinks that his dream was to live a peaceful life with his wife and child. This was all he ever wanted in life. But his dream did not come true because demons exist in this beautiful world. After that, Yoriichi joins the Demon Slayer Corps. Demon Slayers had been hunting demons for a long time, but no one in the Slayer Corps knew breathing techniques. So Yoriichi starts teaching them breathing techniques. At that time, the Hashira were already very powerful, even without knowing breathing techniques. And when they started using breathing techniques as well, they began defeating demons very easily. Then one night, Yoriichi encounters Muzan Kibutsuzi, and Lady Tamayo is with him. As soon as Yoriichi sees Muzan, he becomes extremely angry and understands that he was born to defeat Muzan. To Yoriichi, Muzan felt like a living volcano, ready to devour everything at any moment. Muzan says that he no longer has any interest in breathing technique users, and saying this, he stretches his arm and attacks Yoriichi. While dodging Muzan's attacks, Yoriichi thinks that if even a single attack hits his body, he will die. Then Yoriichi sees Muzan transparently and realizes that Muzan has 7 hearts and 5 brains, which shocks him. After that, he perfects his swordsmanship and attacks Muzan, cutting off his hands, legs, and head, meaning he defeats him. Hearing about this perfect swordsmanship, Tanjiro thinks, was this the 13th form of sun breathing? So he wants to hear more about it. On the other hand, Muzan falls to the ground and becomes extremely shocked because he cannot regenerate his severed parts. He somehow holds on to his severed head, but Yoriichi is not surprised at all, because he knows that his red blade will work even on the Demon King. Then Yoriichi asks Muzan what the value of human life is to him. Muzan gives no answer and only stares at Yoriichi in anger. Then Yoriichi looks toward Tamayo. Tamayo does not try even a little to help Muzan. She is looking at Muzan in such a way that it seems she would be very happy if Muzan were to die. Yoriichi sees the light of hope in Tamayo's eyes, so after killing Muzan, he decides to kill her as well. Yoriichi steps forward to finish Muzan, but at that very moment, Muzan divides his body into 1,800 parts and escapes. Yoriichi destroys 1,500 pieces on the spot, but he cannot cut the remaining 300 parts, which is why Muzan survives. Seeing this, Lady Tamayo falls to the ground in despair because Yoriichi fails to finish Muzan, and Muzan overcomes his only weakness, his head. At that time, Tamayo had thought that Muzan's head was his weakness. Seeing this, Yoriichi decides not to kill her. After that, Yoriichi calms Tamayo and asks her about Muzan's personality. Tamayo tells Yoriichi everything about Muzan. She also says that as long as Yoriichi is alive, Muzan will never appear in front of him again. Then Yoriichi frees Tamayo from Muzan's control and asks for her help in defeating Muzan. Tamayo agrees. After that, some slayers come to Yoriichi and tell him that his brother has become a demon. Then many members of the Slayer Corps start blaming Yoriichi because he could not kill Muzan and he let Tamayo go. And now his brother has also become a demon. Yoriichi takes responsibility for failing to defeat Muzan, and because his brother became a demon, he is expelled from the Slayer Corps. Many members of the Corps even talk about killing him, but at that time, the Ubuyashiki stops them. Then Yoriichi tells Tanjiro's ancestor that he was born into this world to defeat Muzan, but he failed. Because of this, many people will die in the future, and this causes him great pain. Hearing Yoriichi's story, tears start falling from Tanjiro's eyes. After that, Yoriichi and his ancestor sit there silently for a long time. Then the child grabs Yoriichi's clothes. Tanjiro's ancestor tells Yoriichi to take the child in his arms. Yoriichi lifts the child up with his hands, and the child starts smiling happily. Seeing the child smile, tears fall from Yoriichi's eyes, and then he hugs the child tightly. The child's mother comes at that moment, and then all of them together begin comforting Yoriichi. And Tanjiro thinks that Yoriichi-san endured a lot of suffering in his life, and he hopes that in the end of his life, Yoriichi found peace. Then the scene shifts to the battlefield. We see that Muzan's attacks have become even faster than before, and the Hashira are struggling heavily. Mitsuri is barely dodging the attacks purely by instinct. At that moment, Muzan attacks Mitsuri and destroys the right side of her neck and ear. Obanai quickly rushes toward Mitsuri, but just then Muzan attacks both of them. Gyomei and the remaining Hashira attack Muzan and block that attack. On the other side, Obanai takes Mitsuri to a safe place and tells the slayers to give Mitsuri first aid and to bring Yushiro. Mitsuri becomes extremely frustrated with her condition and says that she can still fight. Obanai says, "It's okay, you've done enough," but Mitsuri says that she hasn't been able to do anything in this battle, and she doesn't want to die without doing anything. Obanai tells the slayers to take care of Mitsuri and then starts running toward the battlefield. Seeing this, Mitsuri also tries to follow him, but her condition is so bad that she can't even stand. Then, crying, she tells Obanai not to die. As Obanai runs toward the battlefield, he thinks that if there were no demons in this world, how many more people might still be alive? He wonders what it would have been like if he and Mitsuri had met in a world without demons. While running, Obanai's mask comes off and we see a cut on his mouth. Then, in his mind, Obanai starts telling Mitsuri about his past. He says that he comes from a dirty family who could do anything for their own benefit. Their family was like a royal family in terms of wealth and influence, but in that family there were only women, and until the year 370 not a single male child had been born. Then Obanai was born. But from birth, Obanai was kept imprisoned in a cage by his family. When his family talked to him, their voices felt completely disgusting to him, and the smell of the food they gave him made him feel like vomiting. Whenever night came, Obanai would hear a terrifying sound, and he felt like someone was checking on him. Because of this, Obanai was very afraid and couldn't sleep until the sound stopped. His life continued like this in captivity. When Obanai turned 12 years old, his family took him out of the cage and brought him in front of a demon. His family worshipped that demon like a god. The demon was female, and its lower half was like a snake. As soon as Obanai saw the demon, he understood that this was the demon that checked on him every night. Seeing Obanai, the demon said that he was still small and that she would eat him after he grew a bit more. The demon killed wealthy people, and Obanai's family would steal the wealth of those people and live comfortably. In return, they fed their own children to the demon because the demon liked eating children. And because Obanai was a boy and had eccentric eyes, when he was small and brought in front of the demon to be eaten, the demon showed interest in Obanai and gave him time to grow. This time, when he was brought in front of the demon again, the demon and Obanai's family decided that after a few more days, Obanai would be fed to the demon. The demon told them to cut Obanai's mouth to make it look like her own mouth. Obanai's family cut Obanai's mouth, and they fed the blood that fell from his mouth to that demon. Then when Obanai is brought back into the cage again, he starts thinking only about escaping from there, using a hairpiece that he somehow stole. He slowly begins carving the wooden bars. Day by day, he becomes extremely nervous because he fears that his family might find out that he is trying to escape. He doesn't trust anyone in his family, and the only one he trusts is his snake, Kabimaru. One day, Kabimaru enters his cage, and from that day on, they become friends. After that, Obanai succeeds in escaping, but while escaping, the demon starts chasing him. Obanai thinks that he might be killed, but just at that moment, the flame, Hashira of that time, Tanjiro, makes his entrance, kills the demon, demon and saves Obanai. Later, when Tanjiro takes Obanai to his surviving cousin, the cousin starts blaming Obanai, saying that because of him, 50 members of their family died. Obanai already knew something like this would happen. Still, he ran away because he wanted to live. After so much tragedy, Obanai is never able to live a normal life. He becomes a demon slayer. Whenever he helps someone, he feels like maybe something good is being born inside him, but he can never escape his trauma. He feels as if his family is always watching him. That is why he wants to defeat Muzan and die, so that he can free himself from the blood of that family. Obanai also thinks that if the two of them are reborn again in a world without demons, then he will confess to Mitsuri. Then the scene shifts to Nezuko. She has now come very close to the battlefield. On the other side, the Kakushi are trying to keep ordinary people away from the battlefield, and they are helping those who have been injured because of the fight. At that moment, one Kakushi sees Lady Tamayo's cat under a collapsed house. The Kakushi removes the wooden debris from on top of the cat, and then the cat starts running toward the battlefield. On the battlefield, Sanemi and Obanai attack Muzan, and Obanai cleverly cuts off one of Muzan's arms. Muzan thinks that they are trying very hard to keep him trapped here, but all of their efforts will be in vain. Obanai fights very carefully, because one wrong move means the end for him. He thinks that no matter what, they must keep Muzan here until sunrise. They must win, otherwise their allies' sacrifices will be in vain. On the other side, Giyu becomes very weak because of Muzan's poison. While blocking Muzan's attack, his sword falls from his hand. Muzan almost kills him, but at that moment, Obanai and Gyomei save him. Then Sanemi throws a sword toward him and tells him to pull himself together. Giyu grabs the sword and attacks Muzan. Thinking that he can control himself because he is the water Hashira, he vows to fight until his very last moment. Seeing how hard the Hashira are fighting, Muzan thinks that they are more stubborn than he imagined, but it doesn't matter because they will soon die, and there are still 1 hour and 40 minutes left until sunrise. On the other hand, we see that the effects of Muzan's poison start working strongly on the Hashira, and the Hashira also realize that they won't be able to continue fighting for much longer. Just then, Lady Tamayo's cat throws Muzan's poison antidote toward them. The antidote hits the Hashira, which shocks both the Hashira and Muzan. Muzan attacks the cat and cuts it in half from the middle. Because of the antidote, the effects of Muzan's poison are removed from the Hashira's bodies, which makes Sanemi happy. Gyomei understands that this antidote is temporary. Muzan also realizes that this antidote was made by Tamayo, so in anger he launches furious attacks, and the Hashira somehow managed to dodge those attacks. At that moment, Obanai thinks that he has contributed the least in this fight. He also thinks that when a person's life is in danger, they become capable of using immense power to save themselves. Just like when his own life was in danger as a child, he managed to break the cage bars and escape using only a single chopstick. Then he remembers that the crows had told him that Muichiro gripped his sword with all his strength, which caused Muichiro's sword to turn red. So Obanai also puts his entire focus into his sword and grips it with extreme force, causing his sword to turn red as well, and his mark awakens too. But because he uses so much power just to grip the sword, the oxygen in his body drops, making him feel like he is about to lose consciousness. At that moment, Muzan attacks him. Obanai tries to dodge the attack, but he can't feel anything except his hand, so he can't even move from his spot. Giyu comes to save him, but he can't arrive in time. In the very next moment, we see Obanai in mid-air, which shocks Muzan, because he can't understand how Obanai dodged that attack. Muzan attacks Obanai again while he is still in the air, but just then, one of Muzan's arms gets severed. Muzan was shocked because no Hashira was close enough to him to cut off his hand. Then Muzan's other arm is also cut off, and it is done by a sword that does not belong to any of the Hashira. Muzan realizes that the ones attacking him are here, but he can't see them. He understands that they are invisible using Yushiro's blood demon technique, so Muzan tracks them by the sound of their movement. He realizes that there are 3 people moving invisibly. Then, following the sound of their movement, he attacks and cuts the papers attached to their heads, causing them to become visible. We then see that those 3 are Kanao, Inosuke, and Zenitsu. Zenitsu starts crying crying again like before. Seeing them, Gyomei happily says, "So you're still alive." Inosuke jumps and says, "Like hell I'd die. And I brought a lot of papers, so no matter how many papers he cuts, it won't be a problem." Just then, Muzan attacks Inosuke, and Inosuke somehow manages to dodge that attack. At that moment, Obanai cuts off both of Muzan's arms in a single attack, and because Muzan's arms are cut by a red blade, his regeneration speed slows down. Kanao and Zenitsu again attach Yushiro's papers, turn invisible, and attack Muzan. Muzan blocks their attacks and angrily starts cursing at them. Then Obanai also uses snake-breathing third form and attacks Muzan. Because the Hashira's manpower increases, Gyomei gets some time, and within that time, he strikes his ball and axe against each other and turns them red. Then he attacks Muzan and destroys Muzan's right arm. At that moment, Sanemi and Giyu also strike their swords against each other and turn them red. Just then, a crow arrives and announces that there is still an hour and a half remaining until sunrise. Hearing the time, Sanemi says there is enough time to cut Muzan into pieces. On the other side, we see Yushiro treating Tanjiro. Yushiro injects Tanjiro with many injections, which makes Murata ask whether giving so many injections will cause Tanjiro any problems. Yushiro says that Tanjiro took Muzan's attack, so his condition is very bad. Murata tries to take the sword out of Tanjiro's hand, but Tanjiro is holding the sword so tightly that he fails to remove it. Yushiro says that Tanjiro still has a strong will to fight, and Tanjiro's pulse is returning, but it is still very weak. Hearing this, Murata starts crying and tells Tanjiro to wake up, saying that they need to hurry to the battlefield or Muzan will escape. At that moment, Tanjiro opens his eyes. On the other side, because of the red blades, the Hashira are fighting Muzan slightly better than before. A Kikuchi is secretly watching the fight and thinks that if this continues, they might be able to defeat Muzan. On the battlefield, Gyomei attacks Muzan with his ball and destroys the right side of Muzan's stomach. Sanemi, using Yushiro's papers to turn invisible, cuts several of Muzan's tentacles. The Hashira continue attacking Muzan, and Gyomei starts analyzing Muzan's body to find any weak points. Then, seeing Muzan through the transparent world, he becomes shocked. He sees Muzan's multiple hearts and brains, and he understands that this is why Muzan does not die even after his head is cut off. He thinks that if someone like him could see this, and if they could attack and destroy all of Muzan's hearts and brains at the same time, then maybe they could finally defeat Muzan. Then he tells Obanai to look carefully inside Muzan's body. Obanai does so and also enters the transparent world. Seeing Muzan like this, he becomes shocked. Just then, Muzan launches a powerful attack, and we see that on the battlefield, only Muzan is standing alone. The Kikuchi who was watching the battle starts searching for where the Hashira are. At that very moment, Gyomei falls beside him, and one of Gyomei's legs is cut off. The remaining Hashira are also thrown to different places. We then see Kanao sitting in front of Muzan. She is shocked and terrified by Muzan's speed. Muzan moves toward her to kill her. She tries to stand up but fails, and Muzan attacks her. But just then, Tanjiro uses sun-breathing first form, cuts off Muzan's arm, and saves Kanao. He takes Kanao to a Kikuchi and tells them to take care of her. He apologizes for arriving late. As Muzan approaches him, he says that it's hard to tell which one of them is the demon. Tanjiro coldly says, "Come on, Muzan, let's end all of this today." So that's it for today. If you liked the video, make sure to like it, and let us know in the comments whose past felt more painful to you, Yoriichi's or Obanai's, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel.